Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Shanks Unleashed Pod. I am Andy Stowe. He is Eddie from Mackworth, and you can tell he says screw the Dodgers. We got a special guest from JT, the dog father today, and the star of our show and the star of the Bill Shanks Show, which you should be streaming every day, every weekday from 3 to 7 on the superstations.com, the one and only Bill Shanks. And Bill, I hate to do this to you because we didn't have this planned, but then like 10, 15, 20 minutes ago, they announced that the Dodgers went out and got another player. Are they the new evil empire of the New York Yankees from the 90s and the early 2000s?
Oh yeah, they are. I was reading today about their ownership group. Their ownership group, and I known this, but I went back and read it again. Their ownership group is the Guggenheim Fund, which is worth $300 billion. Mark Walter, who is in charge of the Guggenheim Fund, is in charge of $300 billion in assets. So their little $4 billion purchase of the Dodgers was nothing. And when you have that kind of money to throw around, it's unbelievable. And the Braves have a corporation that has a lot of money, but nothing of that stature, obviously, to kind of back everything up. So they've gotten Tyler Glass now. They are still talking to Yamamoto, the pitcher who met with the Phillies today. And but we need to remember something too, Andy, and that is that the Dodgers have had a lot of 100-win seasons over the last decade. They have one World Series championship, and one player cannot guarantee anything in Major League Baseball. You have to have a full team, and you have to have everything pop for you in October. Mm-hmm. And the Dodgers have found out that the 100-win seasons that they've had, including 108 or 9 or 10 wins a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, mean nothing when you get popped out in the first round. So this doesn't guarantee anything. It gives them they had 111 wins in 2022 and they got popped out by the Padres in the first round. So it doesn't guarantee them anything. And you know what? 1 through 9, I still like the Atlanta Braves lineup more than theirs. Now 1 through 3 is pretty daggum close, obviously, with their lineup and our lineup. But 1 through 9, I still like our lineup better.
Yeah, I'm worried about that pitching. And, if they keep adding pitchers and they get everyone healthy, that's going to be hard to beat. That is a strong rotation right now.
It is. And I'm sorry, Eddie, but they still, if they get Yamamoto and Glass now, obviously that's going to help them, but they really don't have a rotation right now. They've lost Dustin May to Tommy John. Buehler will be coming back. You don't know what his deal's going to be. Dustin May, like I said, Tony Gonsolin's gone, so they've got to go get a rotation.
Yeah.
So right now, I like ours better, but of course, it could change.
Yeah. I really wish that the Braves would add that one more guy. And, I think, and I sent Eddie a text or whatever. He sent me one yesterday about Seth Lugo signing for 3 years, $45 million. Was that the sign that the Braves are not going to get a starting pitcher? Because that is a lot of money for him.
Well, I don't think it's a sign about anything. I think the Braves weren't going to do him for 3 years because he's 34 years old. So I think they're just going to be careful. They're going to be careful about what they do with the pitcher. I still think Dylan Cease is the perfect one to get, and I hope he is the one they acquire because I think that would give the Braves the best rotation in baseball, regardless of where the hell Yamamoto winds up. But they haven't gotten him yet, and so it's obviously, that's and the Dodgers may go after him.
That's what I'm wondering if they might just try to make a huge splash and go out and get everybody and just try to win it. It just looks like they're going after everybody that's available.
So I want to comment on this. So first of all, how do you think the Dodgers fans as a whole feel right now versus the way the Atlanta Braves fans feel right now? The Dodgers fans, I know they hadn't won anything, Bill, and your point is valid. They've 10 years. They've only won one World Series. By the way, so have the Braves. And we went 14 years and won the division and won one World Series. We need to remind everybody of that. But the Dodgers fans are feeling great. They feel like they've got this thing going in a great direction. The fans are going to show up for Ohtani. It's going to be packed. It's going to be a show every time the Dodgers take the field. And yeah, they got to be the favorites right now to win the World Series. But I want to bring this back to Atlanta. This is what I'm so tired of as born and bred, dealing with all these pro teams that we deal with on a daily basis. Why is Atlanta, Hawks, Falcons, Braves, those are the only three we have to talk about right now, never, ever in the mix for moves like this? Ever, across the board. Tony Ressler, Arthur Blank, Liberty Media, they don't make these types of moves. And the fan base is sitting. The Dodgers just pushed all their chips in on the table and said, we're going for a World Series, maybe 3 or 4 with these moves. The Braves are just sitting back and just kind of twiddling their thumbs. I know they just won a World Series and just came off it 2 years ago. But how do you feel right now as an Atlanta fan overall? You feel pretty mediocre.
Well, first of all, a lot of Dodger fans are, right on the border trying to get into the country.
Here we go. I knew he was going to take that turn.
Praising Joe Biden. They don't give a damn about Ohtani. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you. Look, Braves fans are I know waiting for that big pitcher.
Yeah,
we've seen the Mets sign. The Mets have signed Scherzer. The Mets have gotten Verlander. Then they've gone. And then, who is that big pitcher? I'll take Max Fried to be the big pitcher, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And because I want to tell you something.
Well, you better enjoy him. You better enjoy him.
If I'm Max Fried and I'm watching that shit right there, I'm thinking I got 1 year until I cash my chips in and I join that stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a shame. That'll be heartbreaking if Max Fried joins that team, but that's his hometown team growing up, and he loved them.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's December 14th. It's not over with. There's still time to make moves. There's no question about that. Am I disappointed they don't have a starting pitcher worth a damn more than Reynaldo Lopez, who was a reliever? Yeah, I am. I want one. I don't want Jack Flaherty. I don't want. I want it to be special. And I think that's what they want. Now, what scares me, Eddie, is, though, if they don't get one, the strategy or philosophy that they're going to try to spin to us of, well, we're going to go into the season and see how it goes with what we've got.
Mm-hmm.
That's bullshit, to be honest with you. And that's going to mean that A.J. Smith-Shawver is going to pitch earlier than he needs to.
Yep.
And that Hurston Waldrop is going to pitch earlier than he needs to. They need to leave those two in AAA for most of the year. Leave them alone. Don't get tempted by it. And you would get tempted by it if you went out and got your real deal ass starting pitcher. Yeah. So I hope they do. I'm still holding out hope for it because it's not early anymore, but it's midway through the postseason. I mean, through the off season. So we got 2 months until they go to spring training, and we have to hope that Alex will do something. And I know he's trying because he's as aggressive as anybody in the game.
I bring JT in here, but I got to say this real quick. I got to apologize to Mr. Andy Stowe because before the show, he sent me a sheet listing everything, and I scolded him because he had Georgia, Braves, and Falcons, and I said, put the Braves at the bottom. There's nothing to talk about, and we opened the show with the Braves.
That's my fault. I couldn't help.
No. I'm apologizing to you. You were right. You had them all listed up. What do you think about this, JT?
I was going to ask Bill, you talk about Shawver and Waltrip and leaving them at AAA, and I think that is absolutely the right move. But if you go out and make a move for Cease, or one or both of those guys are going to have to be in the package to bring him back.
One, I think. I mean, look, if they're trying for two, that's why the deal's not getting made.
For two, yeah.
And I don't know if they're asking for two or not, but I mean, if they're asking for both of them, there's no way. Alex loves AJ Smith-Shawver. So there may be hesitation on his part to include him in a deal for Cease. No, I'd put him in there in a heartbeat, but I wouldn't put both of them in there. I would probably say no to that because even though Dylan's got 2 years, that would be hard to give him two. I would be hard to give two. I mean, you're basically giving somebody 40% of a rotation, right? If you give somebody two starting pitchers like that, even though they're young and improving, you're giving them. And hell, we've already given them Jared Schuster. And Mike Soroka, so it might be the Braves North if we did that. But I think you've got to give them, and I would do AJ Smith-Shawver, and he's younger, and I think I like his potential fine. I'm not blown away by his potential, but I think he's got potential. but I don't want to see him in the big leagues this year.
Yeah.
With us, Chicago, let him do it. They're going to be bad, right? So it doesn't matter. Let him go up there and take his lumps and do what he. But for a team that wants to win a division and a championship, no. But I think, and that may be the thing that's holding up a deal between the two of them. I don't know, but because they're going to want a lot. There's no question about that. But hell, we gave him Max Stassi. Isn't that enough? You'd think that would be.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere last week that they wanted Grissom, they wanted AJ Smith-Shawver, they wanted Waldrop, and then they wanted someone else. I think
That's just someone making stuff up. Nobody knows.
And it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all those. There are a bunch of fan sites on Facebook, and I took them off because some of their stuff is just clickbait. They don't know anything going on.
Right. And you had mentioned maybe signing Jack Flaherty. He actually signed, this was 30 minutes ago, signed with the Tigers. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just drying up quick. So,
yeah, it is. But there's still some out there. I mean, Michael Walker's still out there. Yeah. There's a possibility. I mean, I think Flaherty, I'm sure Alex talked to Max Fried about Flaherty because that was his teammate in high school, right? So I'm sure they discussed that a little bit. But there's still some guys out there in the free agent market, but they don't throw hard. And I think that's what Alex wants is a hard thrower. That's why Cease is the perfect one because he throws hard. Mm-hmm. He gives you innings. He strikes people out. He checks off all the boxes. He really does.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, Bill. That's what I've really liked what Alex has done with the bullpen because if you look at there was a tweet that went out about Bryce Harper against 95-mile-an-hour balls plus. And he was awful, okay? Mm-hmm. And we didn't have anybody in the bullpen last year that could do that, really. We do now. And they've got burners in that bullpen. And I love that they looked at that and said, here's the issue. We need guys who can throw BBs at the Phillies. That's how we're going to beat them. That I really like. So you're right. Cease is perfect for that.
That's what he wants. You can tell he likes hard throwers. Mm-hmm. That's why he brought Pierce Johnson back. That's why he – wanted Jimenez to come back because his average velocity is very good. So I think that's all that's about. So yeah, that's why Lugo 34. I think his average was like 94.6. Not bad, but that's going to go down as he gets older. So then you're talking about 93, 92. That's pretty average. But Cease is 28, and he's. I mean, you go watch his YouTube video and you're like, oh yeah, that's who we need right there.
Yeah, and he's entering his prime. I mean, that's the prime years for a starting pitcher. Yeah, so he's the perfect guy for us, and I think if they can get it done, I think that's the guy that kind of puts us over the top.
And tell me if you guys would agree with this too, especially in a short series. I was so nervous about that one last year against Philadelphia, but if you're able to throw somebody like Strider, Cease, and Fried in a your first 3 games and not having to worry about Elder or a bullpen game, you're feeling much better about your chances.
Well, Charlie Morton's your fourth in that. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And, Elder, I mean, God bless him, but pitching into the playoffs is never their intention whatsoever. They had to because of Charlie and his finger and the, the blister for Max. I mean, they had already told Bryce Elder he was not going to pitch in the playoffs, not even make the roster. And then all of a sudden, boom, he had to start because they didn't have a choice. So, it was just unfortunate for sure that they had to do that. But yeah, but I don't want them to wait until July 31st. Don't do that. Just, go ahead and, don't be cheap. Go on out there and get you a pitcher and do it. Jay, if you know Gunnar Henderson and he wants to come to the Braves, I'll pass that along. Let's make that happen, brother. I'll trade Max Fried for him today.
Yeah, I don't know that that's going to happen, but hey, we'll work on it. We'll drive and get him. Well, guys, there are a lot of things going on right now.
It's insane. It's insane. We should all just be sitting here lamenting the Georgia loss, and we got all this other stuff to talk about.
I know, and that's what's crazy. And so I'm going to move over into the Georgia Bulldogs because the transfer portal, recruiting, roster management, whatever you want to call it, between today and next Wednesday, which is early signing period, aka the real national signing day now, it's going to be crazy. And Eddie, I'm going to throw this one at you. The quarterback room, what is it going to look like by next Wednesday night after signing day has happened And after maybe Carson Beck has made his decision, who's going to be in that room? Who's not going to be in that room? Will Dylan Raiola be there? Where are we going to be looking at come next Wednesday night in the quarterback room for the Dogs?
Well, I'll predict this right now. Ryan Puglisi is going to be a cult hero on G-Day game. I mean, that kid has just proven his worth, sticking with the Dogs, signing with the Dogs. He's there now. So everybody loves that kid. But I'm going to say this right now. I think Kirby knows what Beck is doing, okay? I think at this point it's out there. And to read today that this Malik, what's his last name? I'm sorry, the kid from Texas.
Malik Murphy.
Malik Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay. He's in the portal and Georgia's in the mix from what I'm reading. That tells me if Georgia's in the mix, that Carson Beck is either leaving for sure and going pro, or they don't know what he's going to do. That's the two things right now. And I believe those two things to be true. So they are preparing for both of those things if they're in the mix for that quarterback, right?
Right.
They can't just sit there and wait on Carson. If he doesn't come back, oh my gosh, we're too late. He's gone somewhere else. So I truly believe that. But if I had to tell you right now what's going to happen, I think Beck's gone. I think Raiola's gone. And I think we get Malik as the quarterback next year. Because Kirby is not going to start. I don't know about Gunner. I just don't know at this point. But he's not going to start Puglisi, a true freshman, next year. He's just not the way he is.
Bill, what's going to happen in that quarterback room?
Well, I'm concerned of why Beck has not made his announcement. It's either two things. Kirby's holding out because of recruiting, or he hadn't made up his mind. I can't imagine he hadn't made up his mind yet, but maybe he hasn't. And Kirby may be telling him, look, I got this going on. I know you're coming back, but I want you to hold off because of some things I'm doing, because I think Kirby would do that, and I think Carson would probably respect that. I think Carson's coming back. I just can't imagine him leaving. I just can't imagine that right now. So I think Carson's coming back. Then
why hasn't he said it? That's what I don't understand.
That's what I'm saying. I think
that there's so many other decisions that are waiting on him to do that. Yeah,
for you, but not necessarily for Kirby. If Kirby knows, he doesn't give a damn whether or not you know or not. Though that's the thing, right? I mean, as long as Kirby knows, we don't care. I mean, I can't imagine Kirby doesn't know what Carson's going to do. Now, the interest in the Texas kid is suspicious, right? That makes me like, well, maybe he doesn't know. I don't know. Is that Texas kid really that good?
Well, he's actually, I mean, he's a good thrower, but he's not a burner. So so the quote, or when he was coming out a couple of years ago, the exact quote about him was, does not offer much of a run threat, but will need to improve his mobility at the next level as he can tend to be stationary at times.
But he runs better than Carson Beck.
He's 6'5", so he might not. He's big. He's tall.
Yeah. I think he's a little quicker, but I don't think I don't think he's a runner. So I don't know. I don't know if he brings that much more to the table than Beck does when it comes to running. And if that's the case, is that really where we want to go?
It put Lane Smith's comment back up, that the one before this, the one about, there you go. Kirby likes death and competition. Great point. You know who doesn't? The kids nowadays. They're out of here with any depth or competition. Right, JT?
Especially if you're a quarterback, and I think that's the biggest reason we're seeing this out of Raiola right now. And let's be honest too, he's a legendary name over in Nebraska anyway. So if he goes over there, I'm not going to hold any ill will toward the kid. But just to go back to this Beck deal, I feel like Kirby knows 100% what's going to happen, and I'm like Bill. Whether or not we know about it, he doesn't give a damn as long as he knows what's going to be happening going forward for spring 2024.
And he just may not want it public. He just may want it to be private hey, if Carson announces next Thursday, we'll know why, right? We'll know why. The timing will not just be a coincidence. It'll be, he waited until after National Signing Day. I mean, this is all, it's a shell game. It's a shell game. I don't know how these coaches play it. I don't know how they do it. Yeah. But it's a shell game. And part of that is announcements. Now, I don't think that Kirby would think, well, if Carson holds off and announcing that Dylan will sign with us on Wednesday, are they going to make an offer toward Dylan Raiola before Wednesday after he goes to Nebraska? I mean, I say things that just don't make any sense, but it's like, well, would they? I mean, if we I heard, and I repeated it, that, Kirby loved Dylan Raiola. He thought he was a special talent. He's loved him since the day he met him. So how much is he in love with him? How much he's got to be upset that this has happened this week. But does he let him go to Nebraska and come back on Monday and say, okay, Dylan, what is it going to take? Now, I don't think Kirby's like that. Like, I don't, like Chip Tower said today, I don't really buy the stuff that's been shoveling on the Dog Nation side about how much Carson wants. I don't think I buy that either.
No.
But how much does he want? And look, if Dylan just wants to start from day one, see ya.
Yeah.
Well, that was my question. I don't know what's going on in Nebraska. I don't keep up in Nebraska. I need to call Russ Brown, your former co-host, Bill, and find out what's going on there.
Well, they had Sims at the beginning of the year, and I think he something happened to him in the middle of the year or something, didn't it? I believe.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, if Dylan Raiola signs next Wednesday in Nebraska, is he the starter for next year? I don't know what their depth chart is. Now, if he signs at Georgia next year, I don't care if Beck leaves or not. He's not necessarily the starter.
No.
Right?
No, not to me.
And he's known that forever, right? I would think.
Well, I think I saw that two of their other quarterbacks, I was going to look, two of their other quarterbacks are
Heinrich Harburg.
Did he enter the portal, or is he about to enter the portal?
I don't know. And Shepard Purdy. They had 3 quarterbacks this year, including Jeff Sims, the former Georgia Tech quarterback, who I think started the year as the quarterback. And then Heinrich Harburg, Heil Heinrich. My God. And he was he wasn't very good. 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Here's their quarterback. Well, this may answer your question, Edward.
Yeah.
The Nebraska quarterback stats: 10 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 30 sacks.
Oh. You know what that sounds like? A line issue to me. Have fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have fun.
Exactly. And if he thinks he can make chicken salad out of that chicken shit, right? Good luck.
If he thought it was bad at Buford this past year, if you watched any of those games, he was running around like crazy. It's really going to be bad out at Nebraska. But I'll tell you this, McCord went out there for that visit and decided not to go. To me, the writing's on the wall right now.
Yeah,
that he decided not to go because he knew Dylan was going. Is that what you're saying?
That's my thought.
Maybe they told him, JT, to get no come.
Yeah. And so, Bill, I did hear that the Dylan Raiola, Georgia has already offered their max amount, and Nebraska's doubled what Georgia's offered. So if that's the case, then we know that it's probably not going to happen.
I just don't, and maybe I'll change my mind about this. I don't think Georgia needs to get in any bidding wars.
I agree.
I'm like, you know what, kid? Hey, look. If you want to come here and play for a championship and make $1 million, fine. If you want to go to Nebraska and be cold as hell and lose 7 games, you get the ass kicked for 60 sacks, go.
And not get prepared for the NFL like Kirby does here. Look at the past 2 years.
And you know what? Somebody said it today on the show. Look, we had a walk-on win 2 national championships.
Yep.
Matthew Stafford didn't win a national championship. Aaron Murray didn't win a national championship. Jake Fromm didn't win Jacob Eason didn't win a national championship. They were all highly rated quarterbacks. God bless them all. But so we don't have to, again, it's kind of like the Dodgers, you don't have to be defined by one player. This program's never going to be defined by one player with Kirby at the helm, I don't think. And even this year it was defined more by Brock Bowers than any quarterback. But I mean, I just, again, the thought of a kid like, let's say I'm at Kirby's desk. I'm Kirby. Coach Smart, Carson wants to see you. And Carson walks in and says, Coach, I'm going to stay for $4 million. I just can't fathom that.
I can't either.
That just blows my mind, because part of me is like, fuck, good luck. Go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not giving you $4 million. You played 1 year, and hell, half the damn Dog Nation didn't know if you were the man until the Auburn game.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like,
That's how I think it's going to go down as well. There's no way that's the legit number. But I did see this comment from Jay Kinman. He said, dual threat quarterbacks like Murphy doesn't seem to fit Georgia's strategy. Well, Stetson Bennett, he was a runner and he won 2 national championships at Georgia. So we did not do it. It wasn't that we just let him run, basically the read option all the time, but we did do some quarterback runs and he could get out of that pocket and go. And you always look back in that national championship game when that linebacker number 13, I think he was supposed to be their best player. And Stetson said, come on, and just ran right by him and the game was over. So
I'll go back to less than 2 weeks ago. Jalen Milroe
beat us
with his legs. He did not beat us with his arm.
He didn't torch us, but he was able to escape that pocket when it was coming in.
He did enough.
That's So I think that's where college football and NFL too. I think it's where it's going. So, Bill, what about Jamon Dumas-Johnson? I mean, that kind of came out of left field to me. I really thought if he was going to stay, or if he was going to leave, he would go pro. But he's going to enter the transfer portal. That's kind of a shocker to me.
Well, Jake Rowe had said on our show that he thought that there could be a bigger name that might surprise people. I kind of thought it was Jamon Dumas-Johnson.
Okay.
Look, I think he played very well for Georgia. I don't want to sound like a dog fan who throws people under the bus after they leave, but I think they'll be okay. I think. Look, they're going to bring more people in. We know that. They've got to. The linebacker spot has been heavily hit, obviously, with all these guys leaving with Darius Smith and Xavier Story. Maybe they try to get Xavier Story to come back. I don't know. We'll see. But, I really think they'll be okay. I mean, that's a ton of talent in the linebacker crew to have. Justin Williams is going to obviously, I think, be in the picture from day one. The freshman, who everybody says is just a fantastic player. So I think that, a little bit of a surprise, but I go back, and Eddie may remember this. Last spring when those linebackers started to take shape and I saw that depth chart, I asked Anthony Dasher, I said, Dash, do you think Jamon Dumas-Johnson is going to be able to keep his job? Mm-hmm. And Dash said, well, he is all SEC. So, you got to kind of respect that. And I'm like, yeah, but man, these are good players, and I think they were. So I think they'll be okay. CJ's going to be there. Obviously, I think Jalen Walker's going to be there. Right. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do on that other side, but I want to tell you, I was watching some of those guys warm up before the game against Alabama, and man, Mpemba, some of those kids over there, I mean, some of those guys over there, Mpemba in particular, and Gabe Harris and Wilson, man, they're athletic kids now. They're really, really impressive physically. And, Mpemba wasn't supposed to do squat this year, and he got snaps, and he was really good in spring practice. So I'm anxious to see his. But, I mean, you got to think about developing those players, how they're going to be better next year. And, I mean, the numbers are a little bit down. Now, if Smile Monday goes in the portal, I think we got to worry a bit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's like too many. But, man, I think they'll be okay right now.
You definitely need that leadership back.
Go ahead.
And that
you definitely need that leadership back with
Lane's comment, that's what with JDJ, the leadership, the calling the plays. That's when we talked about that a week or two ago, when I said he was the better player than CJ. And I still, to this day, I believe it. Do I think CJ may be the better overall player by the time he leaves Georgia? Yes, I do. But today, I do think JDJ was probably the better overall player. So,
well, he certainly would have been in the SEC championship because they exploited CJ Allen. I mean,
yes, they did.
Bama counter-trapped him all day long, and he was lost at times, okay? But I'll say this. He learned from that, okay? And he's only a freshman, and Jamon Dumas-Johnson is no dummy. He saw the writing on the wall. He lost his job, and I guarantee if he had come back healthy in that SEC championship, he wasn't going to start. CJ was.
You're right about that, Eddie. There's no doubt. When I went to G-Day this past year, I was sitting in the stands, and I saw CJ out, and I knew him back when he played down at Lamar County, and I saw what he was then. So when I saw him out on the field, there was the first couple of plays. I can't remember. There was some kind of a wide receiver. A tight end across or something. He just absolutely hammered somebody. And I said, he will not leave the University of Georgia without winning a Buckets Award. I've got it pinned to my Twitter right now, and I'll stand by that right now.
Good.
Well, and that, I think that JDJ, he was intelligent.
Yeah.
He had. If you're given the ability to call the plays, then the coaching staff feels good about you knowing where the heck to be, where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. And I think he was. And I think that's what they may have kind of taken advantage of CJ in the championship game, because Alabama probably saw that, because it was obvious in some spots, even though the athleticism was there, he was a little bit, where am I at times. So, but now, like you say, Eddie, I mean, how many times we said about the snaps they get in year 1 to year 2, man, you see my snap chart, and you helped me one time about how many snaps those kids get, about not even only snaps, but games and games played. But it's like that's a really big, I think, indication of what the coaches feel about their potential for the next year. And we've seen it. We saw it with those linebackers a couple of years ago that had like 12 games played, but no starts. And it was like, well, next year they're going to be ready for those starts, because they're going to step into a larger role. And I think CJ's going to have that now. And I think they'll be fine. I really do. They'll probably go look for maybe a linebacker in the portal to go along with some of those kids. I mean, the numbers are still okay. They're okay. I mean, the only thing I think is, well, I mean, they could use another one.
Yeah.
You're so used to they're okay, but I wouldn't mind having another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you're an injury away.
Like pitching. Can't have enough of it, right?
Yeah.
But I want to say this overall about the portal and everything that's going on, and all of everybody melting down in Dog Nation over all these transfers. To me, you brought it up today, Bill, about if we look back at the old recruiting and how excited we were about, what was that, the best recruiting class ever when Rick brought that in. Yeah, the Dream Team. There you go. Okay. Well, how did that work out in the end? We were all excited, best recruiting class ever. And we could say that for many. We have to look back at recruiting classes to see, okay, how did this recruiting class, we were excited about it, number one class, all that. How did it end up? Okay. We're at the beginning of this transfer portal thing. We're going to have to look back at this in August and say, what did Kirby do? What did he bring in? I would say even further than that, look back at it and say, how did Kirby weather the storm? I think the panic is ridiculous at this point. There's just too much left to be played out.
I agree.
JT, am I wrong?
JT, you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of blinked out there for a little bit. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. You guys know that I have made a lot of my talk on TikTok, because I've got a lot of followers over there, and I get asked all the time, what does Georgia look like next year? I can't tell you. I have no idea.
It's not.
We've got to get through the portal. We've got to get through the recruiting season. And Kirby would know better than us, but I don't know if he could tell you 100% what we're going to look like right now.
No way.
Until we can get to a point to where we know what our roster is going to look like. There's just no way to do it.
I don't think you're not going until May, JT. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to take this window, even perhaps the second signing period. Who knows? Maybe they do something else. And then the other window after spring practice, we may not know until May what the final picture looks like. I mean, I've got a working depth chart right here in front of me, and I mean, there's still some that are going to come off this list. I know there are, but because it's like offensive line. Well, Xavier Truss may come off the list. Well, that's a question mark, right? I mean, so I think I read today where Zion Logue's probably going to go to the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's going to the Shrine Bowl, right?
He's going to the Shrine Bowl. Yep.
Yeah.
Stackhouse and Brinson probably coming back, right? So, and there's been talk about Mekhi Williams going in the portal. I hope that doesn't happen, because I hope he'd come back for another year to get more development and get better. And probably his final year.
I would hope.
I think the secondary is still going to be really good.
Oh yeah,
I think the
secondary is going to be tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, my God, if DeMello Jones does what he did the other day, right?
That guy's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, so
Well, here's the 2000, and he talking about the changing that we never know what it's going to be. The 2021 top 10 quarterbacks, the composite 247 guys. Number 1 was Quinn Ewers. Number 2 was Caleb Williams. 3 was Sam Heward. 4, Brock Vandegrift. 5, J.J. McCarthy. 6, Kyle McCord. 7, Ty Thompson. 8, Jake Garcia. 9, Drake May. And 10th was Jackson Dart. Every one of those quarterbacks on that list has either transferred at least once or is in the portal, with the exception of J.J. McCarthy. So that's the top 10 quarterbacks in the 2021 class, and they are no longer with their same team. 9 of those 10 guys.
And that's a perfect segue to what I was just getting ready to say, Andy. To all these people melting down about Dylan Raiola may go to Nebraska, we have no idea how these kids are going to go when they step on campus and start actually playing football. We have no idea. It's like the draft. Everybody gets freaked out about the draft. We have no idea when the Falcons – sorry, I said the Falcons. When any team drafts somebody, not the Falcons, we know what happens there. But we just don't know how these guys are going to pan out, right? You have to look back on them 1 to 2 years and see how they did. Dylan Raiola may be the greatest quarterback ever. You were bringing it up today, Bill, on your show. What about Arch Manning? I thought he was supposed to take over Texas and just run the world. He was the best Manning ever birthed. How'd that work out so far? I mean, he ain't even touched the field. So we just don't know.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, to add on to that Dylan Raiola thought, if he goes to Nebraska and figures out he doesn't like it out there, I'll tell you one person that's not going to burn a bridge is Kirby Smart. And if he decides he wants to come back and figures out why he loved it here in the first place, Kirby's going to welcome him back with open arms.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he's going to go out there, and you got to think, Oregon is going to be in the Big Ten now. Southern Cal, Washington, UCLA, they are going to go over there and at best be the 6th or 7th team in the Big Ten. He's not going to win. I mean, and ultimately maybe he doesn't care about that, but it's Nebraska. I think he will be there 1 year, maybe 2 max, and he's going to be gone. I mean,
some of these kids, unfortunately, the way they're wired, some are wired differently than others. Brock Bowers, look at how he's wired. He wants to win. He wants to be at Georgia. Some kids don't give 2 craps about that. I'm not saying this about Dylan Raiola. I have no idea. He may just care about the money. He may just be like, I'm going to the highest bidder. I don't care about going to Georgia. I want the money. Okay. And that's fine. Some kids are that way. Some kids like Ryan Puglisi is like, I don't give 2 craps about the money. Georgia is where I want to be. Every kid's different, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm going to post a link in the chat. So if you want to come in and ask Bill some questions, I'm gonna post it in here for you guys to hop in.
I'm gonna say something about what Paul had to say.
Why? He doesn't usually bring good points to the show.
There we
go. Lots of hate for JDJ. His leadership was huge. His teammates loved him even more. This is a tough loss. And I mean, I think that's the main thing that people have to worry about. But I hope Paul and everybody else, and I think Paul would agree with this, that one of the things that Coach Muschamp and Coach Schumann try to do, and Coach Smart every year, is to identify other players who can take up that slack, especially now knowing how feeble and fickle, what word do we use for how flimsy player retention is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, if you think, okay, I found a great leader on offense or defense, that's great. Well, who's the next one? Because of how quick it can change with either a injury or, Lord knows, the portal. So, I would hope that even maybe after JDJ got hurt, that they tried to think, okay, who's next in that line, who can step up and not only call the plays. I mean, that's big too, don't get me wrong, but you got to hope there's somebody else that can do that now. I mean, I think Jamin had obviously his strengths. There was maybe some physical things that were not as great as a CJ Allen, but the perfect place is Roquan Smith maybe.
Yeah,
but
right.
When you have a team where you have that talent, you're obviously going after skill set, but you've got to identify people who can be that smart player on the field for you. Of the starting linebackers, JDJ was probably the least talented of all of them from a skill set level, but he did have it up here, which probably compensated for everything else. So hopefully they can identify that next person to step up and be that guy, because they need that. They do need that. And they need someone to be that Nakobe Dean, who's oh wow, that stands out. Not only Jalen Carter for picking up a quarterback and showing him off as a trophy, but someone who's out there on the field is like, holy crap, he knows what's going on, compared to 10 years ago when Todd Grantham was in charge, when they were going
just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They didn't know what to do.
So please, it's Todd Grantham. Just don't even say that.
We'll go,
you know what I'm saying? You've got
Remember that?
You've got to have people that can be your leaders. And there's a lot of great skills on all these players' resumes. They've got that skill set, but to have that guy that has this, you got to have that too, because man, not everybody can do that. There are a lot of kids out there with the athletic ability out the wazoo, but they ain't got it up here.
CT, what's going on, man?
How are y'all?
Good.
Yeah, I just want to kind of follow what you're down that same path, Bill. And leadership, I feel like, is going to, as retention decreases, leadership is going to move to the top, right? Your figurehead is going to now become more and more, your leader, because he's going to be the consistent one. So, it makes me think, Eddie, you were touching on this a few minutes ago. We're now in an era and a time where the game is roster management, and the game is going to be, who can be the GM, in the off season, who's the best GM in the off season, who's the best coach on the field on Saturdays. And I think the calm down message comes, when you, or hopefully for the Georgia people, comes when you realize it's still Kirby.
Yeah.
It's still Kirby. I don't think that, you could look at any given, individual players and hate to lose them or whatever, but I don't think there's people out there that are going to outwork Kirby, or that are gonna, that are gonna be able to, put together a better, Saban obviously is very good at it. He's been doing it for a long time. He knows how to plug the holes the right way and kind of like find a guy that's going to fit the need. And they've done that repeatedly. But I still think you have to look back and say you've got the guy you would want to be doing it for your team. And I think it's just going to be, who outworks who, and Kirby is still just going to be excellent at that. The only question mark I have about our, just posture is, how do we transition from, you experienced such success for the past few years, to where you had the benefit of retention being the focus with your money, right? You're trying to keep folks like Carson, or you're trying to keep folks like, whoever. At some point, and this is a question, for us, at some point, do you ever have to look at kind of retooling that and saying, okay, yeah, we want to do retention, but acquisition is also something we have to look at? Do you ever have to shift your mindset because of where your program is, to where, no, I might have to go after a high school senior? And I totally agree that he's not proven, but you might have to do that at some point.
Well, I think when you're looking at roster construction, you're looking at the percentages of what is happening now. We used to have a situation where 20 to 25 people, around 1/4 of the roster, was changing every year because of National Signing Day. That was the only thing that changed. Now you have another 10 to 15 that you have to worry about. Once we get past this, extra year of eligibility because of COVID stuff, and everybody starts falling off when they're supposed to, then it's going to be a little bit more regulated to a normal situation. I think even by Jake Rowe saying this week on the show that he thinks there's going to be, 6 to 8 transfers coming in. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Last year they had Smoke Bowie, the Tennessee running back, who I think is in the witness protection program, and the 2 wide receivers, right? Ra and Dominic. That was all. There was 4.
Yeah.
The year before, it was just it was only
we're going to have more this year than ever before, right?
Yeah, I think we only had one. Yeah, I think we had one the year before, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's never been like we're going to have here. So to me, Chris, it's like, okay, what's the balance here of how many transfers coming in are we going to start to have? They're going to balance that out with the freshmen coming in,
Right.
and therefore, and consequently, where's that money going to go?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, if they see by what's going on right now with this wild period, wow, this is going to be different every year because we may have to look at 5 to 10. I mean, hell, I've got like I think 12 people on my list that they've been linked with. Let me see. No more than that. 13 people, 14 with that quarterback. So 14 people on my list that I've seen them connected with. So
Right.
we're going to possibly have 10 to 20 people we're talking to in the portal to come in. Then we're going to have to set aside some money for that every year.
Right.
Because I think that's going to be a norm now, especially with these kids being able to transfer a second time with no penalty. They're going to go. So, I mean, I think, but you're right. There's nobody to handle this than Kirby Smart. Look, 10, 15 years ago, when I was hell-bent in recruiting and doing countdown of signing day and loved all that stuff, I probably would have gone and just drank a whole bottle of Crown that when I heard Dylan Raiola was possibly decommitting.
Right.
But, after the disappointments of the Rick years, I got away from that. I couldn't do it anymore because I was tired of getting disappointed because of things like that right there, or a player coming like Dylan Raiola and shit in the bed, right? So it's like, I mean, I was disappointed the other night, sure, but I didn't panic, and I don't think anybody needs to panic with Kirby Smart in charge. I mean, I hate to give someone a blind, here, you do it, and we trust you thing pass, but I do.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say to all of that is, and I'm not knocking Kirby Smart, I think he's the man for it. I agree with you, Bill and Chris, but these coaches as a whole are dealing with things they have never thought about before in their past. This is all brand new to everybody.
It's new for everyone.
It's brand, and they're having to navigate these weird waters. I mean, like you said, it may not be true, but Carson Beck coming in, I'm not saying this happened, but Carson Beck walking in Kirby's office and saying, I need $4 million to stay. Who knows if that happened or not? But that's something Kirby 5 years ago could have never dreamed would have happened, right? I mean, we were $100 handshakes under the table. That's what we were doing, right?
Yep.
And this is a whole new ball game. And it changes recruiting because now they're having to deal with the transfer portal all during recruiting, and Dylan Raiola goes somewhere else. And the two kids that they had recruited instead of Dylan Raiola, they stopped recruiting them because of Raiola committing, and now he's backed off. So those other two kids they could have gone after, they stopped. So I'm just saying, it's just everybody's dealing with, and I think Kirby's age helps. Is Saban going to deal with this better than Kirby? I don't think so. I mean, he's in a old dinosaur mindset. So I think that works in our favor.
He is, but he seems to keep winning, though. I'll give him that.
I know.
He adapts. That is one thing about Nick Saban. He can adapt to just about any situation. When it was like got to go to spread offense, he's like, okay, fine. He went wide open. And then
we'll see when they lose to Michigan. We'll see what happons. I think things are going to change.
I did. He just hired Michigan's linebacker coach from 2 or 3 years ago. So he started today. So he's trying to just go ahead and get a little bit more advantage. So he hired him and he started today apparently. So,
but guys, the roster construction thing though. I mean, I love roster construction for every team I'm on. I love. I do. I've even got a Georgia Tech depth chart. I mean, my God, what's wrong?
Oh God.
But I love it.
I'm done. We'll see you guys. I'm out.
Yeah, see you, JT. I'm going to.
I love keeping up with that. I love keeping up with depth charts and I mean I love it. I've got. I mean, I'm already putting the transfers on the new spot for the next year's depth chart. But that's part of what the staff has to do to help Kirby Smart. I mean, he's probably got people who are watching that transfer portal, watching everything on Twitter. I bet there's someone completely hired to watch Twitter. Watch Twitter, and so he's able to have plenty of people working for him that can help him do that roster construction, and people who really love it. I mean, if I wasn't in broadcasting, that's what I would have wanted to do, because I just love roster construction of any sort. It's just interesting to me of how things are put together. Why did Alex Anthopoulos go after who he went after 2 years ago? Why are the Falcons dumb fucks? I mean, things like that. But I mean, I love just the story of how the rosters are put together and why. And I just think he's done a very good job of that. And it's like, until we have any reason to not trust him, right? Let's keep on trusting him. And you know what? He's still got a lot to show, even though he's not going to have a ring on his finger for this year. He still has a lot to say. Hey, look, we can't get as close as we were this year, but we've got 2 right there, and this is the decade of the dogs.
So we have 16 guys that have entered the transfer portal. Is that number right, Andy?
17.
Yep.
17 now. Okay.
Including the 3 walk-ons.
Okay. I don't know the answer to this. I should have looked it up. How does that rank nationwide? Is that high? Is that low? Is that average at this point?
It's
I have no
higher.
idea.
It's getting higher.
It is higher.
It's getting higher. I mean,
when we were at 14, I think we were in the middle of the pack of the SEC,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say it's sneaking up there.
Yeah, so we're starting to get a little higher.
I think A&M still had the most, I believe.
Okay.
And Florida was having a lot. But it's getting up there.
It's always interesting to see, those numbers after the playoffs are over. Just to see what happens with the teams that went the deepest, because they right now you look at it and it's like Bama's only got 2 or whatever. They still got a game to play. And,
right.
They could have all those teams could have a huge exodus if this mentality extrapolates across programs. That they want those guys want their opportunity.
To your point, if Georgia makes the playoffs, there's probably 2 in the portal right now.
That's right. That's right. It's like when I got in the car in the cold of Indianapolis. By the time we got out of Indiana on the way to Louisville, we heard that Jermaine Burton had been in the portal. I'm like, shit, we just won the national championship an hour ago. Yeah. But so I'm sure it'll be a lot more after they play those games. And look, there may be somebody after we play, right? They may say, well, I don't want to jeopardize Kirby telling me I'm not going to play in the Orange Bowl, so I'm going to play there, and then I'll decide whether I'm going to get the portal.
Right.
Yep.
So as of yesterday, I think it says Texas A&M had 19 guys that was going to be in the portal, and Georgia, when it was at 14, they were tied for 9th on the list. So yes, I mean we're starting to get up to the top of top of the list of that. So
that's kind of what I figured.
But I think it's going to become the norm. I really do.
Too.
And look, last year, let me see how many people were on the.
But let me stop you right there. Do you think it's the norm next year with 12 teams in the playoffs? I don't know. I think that number goes way down with 12 teams in the playoffs
in December, but it may change in January.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
this early period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this period.
We had 16 last year.
Wow.
We had Griffin Scroggs, A.D. Mitchell, Dominic Blaylock, Jacob Hood, Rylan Godey, Brett Seither, Eric Gilbert, C.J. Washington, Marcus Washington, Sean Washington, Big Bear, Ryan Davis, Tresman Marshall, M.J. Sherman, Jaheim Singletary, Bill Norton.
Wow.
And that's an interesting stat because I tell you what, as many people are all up in arms about it right now, we're a field goal away from being in the top 4. So
exactly
a year later.
And Bill, you had Brent Rollins on your show, was it yesterday or the day before? And he was talking about the transfer portal. And when you asked him which one of those guys has you concerned, what was his answer?
None of them.
There you go.
Brent
Rollins is great.
If you ask him that today, would he say the same thing? Because there's been another one.
Well, he may talk about like Paul. He may mention the leadership of JDJ.
Right.
But I don't think. I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, I was surprised by Xavier Sorey.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. And I thought Xavier Sorey was going to get a pretty good chance to play more next year.
I was surprised by Blasky. That's the one
that
caught me off guard.
Well, there's
Yeah.
something going on there. And Paul may know what the story is there, but there was some illness there that kept him. I don't know what the deal is. He's in the portal, so he evidently still wants to play, but something happened.
Was it worms? I mean, what do you mean illness?
I don't know, Eddie. Everybody doesn't have those things like you, but I mean,
because I said it, that means I have it.
well, I mean, you set that up on the tee for me, and I still hate Otani it out of there. No, but you remember in August, people were saying, "Oh, they can't keep Austin Blasky off the field."
Yeah,
It's like, well, now he's gone. So, and then Jared Wilson's taking over at center, and giving us a 5-yard penalty, back us up. Thanks, Jared.
Oh gosh.
Hey, let me ask you this on this. This is something I would love to know. I just don't know that much about how this new term of processing rosters is emerging. Kind of label for it or whatever. But how much of I'm a consumer, right? I'm a fan. I hear the information. But how much of this do you think is, a sit down that's not really even the player's first thought? Like, how many of these do you think really are, we need to sit down with so-and-so and have a real conversation about, how appropriate it would be for him to move on? I think every one of them, I think of it, my first thought is, man, are you not committed to the, to the program? Or you don't just want to be a dog? Like, is that not, that's the posture that I take with it until I think, they may have had a conversation with these kids and said, hey, listen, the best thing for you is to be on the field, and that's not going to happen here.
Right. Oh, I think that's a great point. I think we talk about Kirby. Right?
It's in Bennett.
He's a micromanager. Yeah.
Right.
Well, but yeah, I think those meetings happen, Chris. I have no idea. I mean, if they do, but I would assume that they do. I mean,
right.
It's not Deion Sanders where he's not meeting with his team. Kirby meets with his players, okay?
Right.
And he talks to these guys. And I think Kirby tells them up front, that you would be better off going somewhere else and playing.
Sure.
Right? Sure. I mean, if you're a coach and you love your kids, you want the best for your kids, right? So I have no problem if he says that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's probably something that you say to the parents when they're seniors. In high school, you're bringing these kids along and say, the best thing I can do is be honest with you, and for your sake. And if you're going to be our guy, I'll tell you you're going to be our guy, to the best that I can. And if you're not, I'll be the first one to tell you. And that could be the best way to serve, a player for their future to that point. So yeah, that's something it'd be very interesting to know, like how much of that goes into these things, because, again, I read the headline, I'm like, what? He's not committed to the team.
That bastard,
like,
screw him. Yeah,
right. Exactly. So anyway,
I will say that about Jermaine Burton because of this crap. I mean,
some of them we can say.
Yeah, some of them we can say.
Well, I think some of it's just greed.
Yeah,
sure it is.
I may be wrong, but I mean, we don't know what all these guys are making, right? We don't.
Right.
We don't have we can't go to Sport Track and look up the salaries, although that's coming.
It's coming. Yeah.
But I think it's just greed, and of course, all those kids when they come out of high school think they're going to be in Canton, Ohio, one day, wearing a yellow jacket, right? So they all think they're going to the NFL. They all think they're going to be a first-round draft pick, and if they're not in position to do so, it's somebody else's fault.
Right.
So if they think they can get more money or more playing time by doing that, I'm sure conversations take place, but with some of these guys, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's greed, or they may just be unhappy. They may just not like it. I don't know how, but they may not like somebody screaming at them all the time like Kirby does. There may be a variety of reasons for sure.
Yeah. Well, guys, we got a few minutes left, and I wanted to touch on your favorite subject, Bill. I wanted to touch on the Atlanta Falcons.
Don't do
it.
Just a minute. There you go. Get it ready. So the Falcons, of course, lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There you go. They lost 29-25 to Tampa Bay. And I'll say one good thing that happened with that. When they were 6-6 and first in the division,
he's dead.
He's dead. When they were first in the division at 6-6,
did a Michael Carradine in the closet.
Oh man, they were going to draft 19th. When they lost, now they're going to draft 11th. I know that'll change, but the report is without a mid-season or a late season collapse, the Falcons will keep Arthur Smith. What does it mean? I know you've talked about it on the Bill Shanks show, but what is a late season collapse? Because Eddie, I think when you called, you said if they lose to the Panthers, that's a late season collapse.
You damn right it is. He should be fired Monday if they lose Sunday.
He should be fired Sunday. He ought to take an Uber back to Atlanta if he gets beat by the. I mean, look, I don't like him.
Wait, let me ask you a question, Bill. Do you put it past them losing Sunday?
No.
Do you see that?
I don't.
They can absolutely lose Sunday.
There's no question. I mean, the Panthers can have that one game that crappy teams have, where
Bryce Young goes off,
plays. Hey, David Onyemata wasn't in practice today.
Oh God,
Brady's out, so it's like the defense is going to be compromised, and so there could be that one game where Bryce just goes off and hits pay dirt, and the Falcons wet the bed. So, no, I don't think it's out of the question for them to lose. I mean, they shouldn't, but they shouldn't have lost most of the games they've lost. I mean, my God, they've lost. And the easiest schedule in the NFL, easiest schedule in the NFL, and by far is the easiest schedule, and they're 6-7. And, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, it'll be Vulgar City on Monday if they lose, because I'll say the F word more, not Falcons, but the other one more than I'll be allowed to say, because I mean that should be incomprehensible, but it is comprehensible because of who we're dealing with. A team that has underachieved all year long, a compromised team now because of the injuries, a quarterback that doesn't have confidence because his coach has really done him wrong as far as the way he's been handled, and a coach that just doesn't know how to lead a team. And so, therefore, against a 1-12 team, sure, they could lose. And I don't think they'll be any better than 2-2 in these games, which means they'll have another losing season, and a losing season in a year where they were supposed to be a winning team, and there's no reason to keep someone of that. I don't give a damn what the first 2 years were. You had expectations for this year to possibly go from 7-10 to 10-7, and instead you have a losing season. Any other owner in the league that wasn't buddy with his coach like this moron would have fired the guy. So,
So if they go 8-9, does he keep his job?
Do they
wait? They make the playoffs?
Yeah, that was my question. Do they make the playoffs with 8-9? Because that's the caveat.
That's the caveat. Yeah.
If they make the playoffs, he's in. Even if they're 7-10, they're in.
Well, my question to you, Bill, yesterday was they could go 3-1 and miss the playoffs. They could do that.
Yeah.
So is that a collapse?
Well, it should be.
Well, of course it is. In our minds, we're not Arthur Blank, and we're not worried about FedEx stocks.
Arthur blankety blank to you, by the way.
Yeah, blankety blank.
Yeah, I think he's going to be back regardless. I mean, I think if they go 2-2, he's back.
Unless they go 0-4, unless
0-4,
and they won't, because like I said, they'll win, they'll lose, they'll win, they'll lose. That's what they're going to do. They're going to.
If they're 8-9 and they don't make the playoffs, I mean, did y'all see that building the other day? That building was halfway full. They didn't even show the upper deck, but compared to Georgia and Alabama 11 days ago, that place looked like the damn high school championships the last 3 days. There was nobody in there, for crying out loud. And doesn't the smart businessman say, well, I got a problem here? Yeah, you got a problem. In the last 10 years, you've had 2 winning seasons, Arthur Blank. 2.
He doesn't care because the PSLs are sold. He's made his money on the P. He doesn't care who's sitting there. He doesn't care if they're empty. They're paid for. That's exactly why he did this personal seat license, Bill. Exactly why. He's out. He's done. He's made his money.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what he's looking at. I think he just cares about the money, so it doesn't matter.
We have to suffer and watch the shit.
He's friends. He's friends with his dad, so I think that's what it is. It's like he doesn't care if they win. It's just about the money. So I don't know. Well, guys, we've been going at this for a while. Y'all got anything else you want to talk about? Do you want anything happy we can talk about? I don't guess there's any good news going around for us right now. So
the Thrashers play the Rangers tomorrow night at Phillips Arena.
I'll be there. So, Bill, are you coming to the basketball game Saturday night?
No.
To the Georgia game? You're not? Okay.
No. I'll watch it, though.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think me and Eddie, JT, you going to be there?
Hey,
I'm debating on it now.
I'll give you some motivation. My wife is dancing at the basketball game.
Holy crap. Let's go.
She's performing. Absolutely.
Ticket sales just went through the roof.
the Golden Dogs are performing. She's going back with a bunch of alum and performing at the women's game and at the men's game. I'll be there with my boys. And
That
girlfriend.
Golden Dog sounds like what's going down in that strip club that they were at before the accident. Holy cow, the Golden Dogs.
Is that where y'all met at, Eddie? Did y'all meet at the Golden Dog? Is that where?
No,
No?
we didn't. No.
Okay, well,
We met in Athens.
Can I tell you a quick story? What's that strip club called?
Toppers?
Downtown?
Toppers?
Toppers. So
Andy knows.
I'm in Toppers, and I'm in there with my college roommate, and he's in there, and he's like looking. I'm like, have you ever seen pussy before? and I'm
Apparently
like,
not.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? He's like, she's in my biology class.
Oh my God.
I said, really? I need to be a biology major.
Like, you just checked into that class, so you just transferred in. Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
I'm
the
glad
way
he
to go.
didn't say that's my biology teacher because he could have said that too.
Hey, hot for
Yeah.
teacher.
Yeah,
There
Gonna
you
flunk
go.
out, but I love some science.
That's right. Varsity Blues was one of the best football movies of all
man,
time.
I love
Right
that.
there. That was a great movie. Well, guys, this was fun. Everyone watching, we appreciate you watching. If you can, do us that favor of liking it, subscribing to our channel, sharing. Like I said, we're trying to get Bill to say more cuss words. So I want to thank CT.
And we will be off until January, whatever that is.
Whenever
Unless
we-
can we make an exception to that if Arthur Blank
sells the team or
I'm
dies.
sorry, if Arthur Smith gets fired, Eddie's wife is doing a show for the Golden Dogs right here on the Bill Shanks podcast.
I could talk her
Unleashed.
into that. She'd do that.
Unleashed. Or it'll be Eddie from Ackworth's wife undressed right here on the
Oh, wait. Hold on. It's got to be closed. Come on now.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll put that in the bank just to see maybe. Well, guys, yeah, this was fun. Follow Chris Taylor. Follow him on Twitter at ctaylor0780. Follow the Dogfather. I want to call you the Godfather.
Wait. Tell them how to follow you on TikTok, JT.
Yeah, make sure you.
I'm at both TikTok and Twitter at _dog_father. So go follow me
There we
there.
I gotta go follow you with you guys.
Yeah, you got Bill. He is at Bill Shanks
Yes, sir.
and at the Bill Shanks Show. Make sure you're listening to the Bill Shanks Show. I know I sound like I'm a broken record, but you will get the most up-to-date news about the Braves, the Falcons, and the Dogs and even those stupid Georgia Tech little Yellow Jackets and Georgia Southern. And even some losers from Alabama.
Georgia Southern's
No,
not stupid. Tech is
I like Georgia Southern. Tech is stupid, but
Yeah.
but like Alabama, those inbreds, you hear about those. They call. There's some Gator fans that call after they kiss their sister and all that craziness. But yeah, listen to the Bill Shanks Show weekdays 3 to 7 for all the guys. I'm Andy Stowe.
Hey, can I say something, Andy, before you?
Please do.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Merry
Merry Christmas.
Unlike Eddie, I'm Catholic light, but Merry Christmas.
What does that mean? I can't say that too? I mean,
No, you can say it. You're a better Catholic than I am. So
I'm a lot of things than you are, Bill.
that's not what your wife told me.
Oh, and that was when we will end it right there. We appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good
Good
one.
night, everybody.
See ya.
So yeah.